I think oftentimes when you get into OCD treatment, it feels really aversive to think about going towards your anxiety and doing exposures and sitting with all of the uncomfortable thoughts and sensations and feelings. And also, it's great that you recognize that you're already really uncomfortable. So given that you're uncomfortable anyway, you might as well be uncomfortable in an effective kind of way or an efficacious kind of way. And knowing what's happening and then not compulsing against it, but rather tolerating those uncomfortable feelings is much more efficacious. Have you seen any reduction in the amount of anxiety you experience?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think my short answer would be yes, but I think the longer answer is what I'm finding is like the more that I find nuances to like kind of, handle this content, or, the content doesn't matter, or the urgency doesn't matter, thought action fusion doesn't matter. It's like I still will get triggers around everything I'm doing or content around everything I'm doing. And I'm not sure if that's because everything is so new because I'm so new in this career, or if it's because, I just have a really sticky brain and it's sensitized most of the time. I think like that's where, that's the only kind of frustration with this process is I think I thought like, oh, once I have these rules and I, understand the workings of OCD, my, amount of OCD will go down, but I think it's probably stayed the same. It's just I'm able to function at a lot higher level with the amount of OCD I do. And I also am able to kind of tolerate a really large amount of discomfort around content than I used to.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. When you say that you're able to function at a higher level, in what way did the way that you were responding to your OCD make it harder to function?
Yeah, I think before I would always treat content like it was like on the offense and I was just kind of having to take it. And even though I knew kind of cognitively what my brain was doing and what things would make it worse and things like that, it was never easy still to kind of buy into that process. And I think now because I've had so many different ways I've gone about dealing with my OCD that I've kind of surrendered to like that being the best one. It's
That being on the defense.
No, sorry, like this framework that you talk about. So where you're not just like basically whack-a-moling content all the time. That's been, I think, the most helpful for me, where I'm just kind of like content is content. I'm going to have content when I'm sensitized. I'm going to have urgency when I'm sensitized. That doesn't necessarily mean anything other than that. Kind of that approach is what I think has helped instead of feeling like I'm always just attacked by OCD. But there's still definitely days where I do feel defeated, where I'm like, why if I'm doing all these things and I understand content doesn't matter, do I still feel like I'm getting peppered by different content? So it doesn't mean that I think just because my experience has been just because you understand the inner workings and like you understand this process kind of doesn't necessarily mean that your content will go away or that your OCD will go away. It's more just like you can tolerate higher levels of it and function still.
Yeah, so the educational piece makes it so that you know what's happening and it doesn't cause you like the second fear of like what's happening and why is this happening in a way, and even like criticism that can lead to people getting more and more upset and kind of dysregulated. So I'm glad to hear that that's not occurring for you. But when I think about content not remaining sticky and having difficulty getting distance from it, usually there's an underlying belief that's keeping it going, because it's not as though every catastrophic thought you have is one that results in sensitization and stickiness. For instance, you could have the thought, what if my partner dies? And like, can you have that thought without it getting stuck?
Mm-hmm.
So me just saying, what if your partner dies? Do you feel any kind of anxiety about it?
I mean, I feel something, but it's not like content I would have OCD about.
Okay, great example. And with that example, I would say that the reason that you don't get stuck on it is you don't believe just because I say something that makes it true. So other people that get caught in, like if someone says, what if my partner dies? They suddenly get a whoosh. That person is more likely to have the belief that having a thought makes it more likely. And so any kind of catastrophic thought that comes into their mind could send them into a spiral of anxiety. So you don't have that particular belief maintaining your OCD, but back to inflated responsibility. Um, like, I like the rules that you have set up, but what if you actually make a mistake in documentation and it leads to a patient being harmed?
See, now you said that. I felt more than just a passing sense of something with that.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, that's definitely at first when you said like, oh yeah, you might make a mistake, I'm like, yeah, I agree. And then you're like, and somebody would get harmed. I'm like, oh, like I can feel my stomach drop. So that's how I
Okay.
know it's kind of content.
Yeah, so in that area, you still have thought action fusion.
Mm-hmm.
So any version of that still is giving you the urge to do something to ensure that it doesn't occur because your mind is processing intrusions like that as though they're threats to you.
Yeah. No, you're right. I wish I had more to say about that than I do.